What's going on, everyone? I'm Rhett Shull, and welcome to the first of a brand new weekly series of videos I'm calling Signal Flow. Each week, we're going to be talking about a different facet of guitar playing and musicianship. Everything from technique to tone, to gear, to recording and writing, everything that involves playing guitar and becoming a better musician. These videos will be going up every Wednesday here on the channel, so if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe icon down below and click the little bell icon so you can be notified when these videos go live. Now here in episode 1, we're going to be talking about 5 different tricks for playing better guitar solos. These are concepts I've used over the years to improve my soloing, both for recording on sessions and in live settings. So we're going to get into those momentarily. But first, let me give a quick shout out to my friend Calvin Knowles, who played bass on the intro track. Calvin is a monster bass player, so huge thanks to him for playing on the track. All of his social media stuff will be linked in the description below. Be sure to follow him and show him some support. Okay, quickly before we jump into the first tip, let's talk about signal flow. See what I did there? Today I'm playing the Revolta Combinata, and this is going out of the guitar straight into the Kemper, where I'm using my brand new Kemper profiles. These are just released. If you're interested in picking them up, they will be linked in the description box down below, and they are my profiles of these amps right here you see on the rack. This profile I'm using right now is of the FTR 37. This is one of the clean sounds. So that's all Kemper. There's no added drive or anything like that. Okay, so tip number 1 for playing better solos, practice your vibrato and your bends. These are 2 really important aspects to tasteful guitar playing that I think some people kind of overlook, but your vibrato and your bends are really what add a ton of character and feel to whatever it is that you're playing. One thing I see some players do is have kind of what I call like a nervous vibrato, where they kind of do this. To me, a good vibrato should be smooth, it should be slow. The other thing to realize about vibrato is everyone's vibrato technique and vibrato sound is a little bit different. The more important thing to focus on is the sound and the tone. You don't want it to be too fast. You don't want it to be out of tune. It should be nice and smooth. A good way to practice this is listen to one of your favorite singers and try and mimic their vibrato and their voice on your guitar. One other thing to think about is a lot of times you don't want to start your vibrato right away. You want to kind of let the note bloom and open up for a second, then go into your vibrato. Now, bending. I could probably do an entire video just on bending. Maybe I will, but the main thing you want to focus on when you're practicing and learning your bends is, first of all, nailing the pitch. Overbending or underbending is something that really takes away from a solo. So my favorite way for teaching bends is to slide to your target note first, then go back and bend up to match the pitch. Okay, so if we're here on the 2nd string and we slide to the 12th fret, this B, using my 3rd finger, I'm gonna then bend up to that B. And at first, we're not trying to add any vibrato, we're just trying to really nail the pitch. This is also a really great way to practice your ear training and matching pitch. So if we're in a B minor pentatonic shape here, bending from the flat 7 to the 1, also bending from the 6th to the flat 7. As you start to get more confident with it, then you can start to play with the pitch, so, and adding vibrato. All right, tip number 2 is learning to confidently switch between playing with a pick and playing with your fingers. This is a really great way to break out of old habits and old playing ruts. If you are playing the same licks over and over again, you'll notice that you start to play things differently. Your phrasing will change and it'll start to open up new areas and new styles and new licks that you have probably never played before. So I'm gonna start with a lick that I play way too often. It's in this E minor shape here. But if I tuck the pick away and only play with my fingers, you can tell it immediately changes the tone from that to that. The other thing you'll notice too is having basically 3 or 4 different fingers to pick the strings with, it opens up your phrasing and it opens up different options to move around the neck. So instead of just playing something like that, I would change it up and do more double stops. So like a... Okay, tip number 3, practice with a backing track and or some kind of drum loop. This is a common trap that I see a lot of people fall into, including myself from time to time, where instead of practicing actually soloing, we just kind of sit and noodle. We don't really work on developing ideas and phrases and melodies and playing in time, playing ahead of the beat, playing behind the beat. All of these different things which lead into playing a great guitar solo. When you're noodling just by yourself with no key center, with no rhythm, with no tempo, you're not actually getting any better at soloing, you're just getting better at noodling. So YouTube is a really great resource for this. There's plenty of great channels out there that post backing tracks for different modes and keys and feels. So my recommendation for practicing this would be to use YouTube and find backing tracks that fit the style that you're practicing. Maybe you're trying to learn a new mode and get comfortable with something like Lydian or Phrygian that you don't play a lot of. There's backing tracks out there for all of this stuff. Another great thing that I like to do is practice with drum loops. Now, I like to use drum loops from That Sound Drums. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but I'm just a really big fan of what they do. In fact, almost all of the drums that you hear in these videos are from That Sound. And this method of practice is a really great way to start dipping your toe into writing and producing and composing your own music. If that's something that you're interested in doing, start by trying to solo and improvise over a loop that you created. And that's a really great way to get into composition, because maybe you played a lick or something in your solo that you want to turn into a melody idea, and then you find some chords to go behind it and then throw a bass line or keys on top of it. And before you know it, you're writing a song based off of a solo that you improvised. Tip number 4, limit yourself. This is a really great way to try and break out of old habits and old licks. Put limitations on yourself when you're practicing to force yourself to come up with new ways of thinking around the same shapes or the same notes or feels that you've been playing for years. So what I'm going to do now is limit myself to an A minor pentatonic scale from the 4th string and below. So the 4th, 5th, and 6th strings only. And going off of my last tip, I've loaded a drum loop here into Logic so I can give myself some rhythm to play along with. I'm also going to experiment with changing where I'm picking on the guitar. You might notice that I will move back here towards the end of the bridge to get a much more woody, plucky sound. These are all things that you kind of force yourself to think about when you limit what you're used to playing. So let's kick on the drum loop and see if something interesting happens. So my 5th and final tip for playing better solos is to use effects that you don't normally use to solo with. This kind of all ties into the same theme of breaking out of your comfort zone, breaking out of ruts in your playing. So I've put my pedal board in front of the Kemper and I've changed the profile to a matchless Lightning 15. This is what the dry tone sounds like. So traditionally my go-to solo tone is an overdrive or a series of stacked overdrives and maybe a little reverb and delay. Something like... But recently I've been wanting to kind of break out of that because that sound calls up certain ideas and certain phrases that I have trouble breaking away from. So one thing I've started doing is messing around with modulation effects. I have the Strymon Mobius, and I've put on a filter kind of like a Qtron from Electro Harmonics here, and that gives me this tone. When I created this patch, I was trying to emulate the John Mayer Don't Trust Myself tone. An effect like this is cool because it forces you to focus on your picking dynamics. Now, I did a video on this, which you can watch here, all about dynamics and how to change up your tone and inspire different soloing and melody ideas just by your picking and playing dynamics. And the same thing kind of goes with this effect, right? The harder I pick, the more the wah opens up. That is another element of expression to use that I wouldn't normally have if the effect was off. So there you go. Those are my 5 tips and tricks to help you solo better. If you enjoyed today's video, let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. If you want to check out the Kemper profiles that I used in today's video, those will be linked in the description box where you can download them for your own Kemper. Also, huge thanks to my friend Calvin Knowles for playing on the intro track at the beginning of the video. Also, leave me a comment letting me know what you want to see on next week's episode of Signal Flow. That's going to do it for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Rhett Shull, and remember, there is no plan B.